Hello, and welcome to Bumblank Talk. So, today we're going to cover a topic that probably has been covered already by a lot of people, but we're going to talk about it anyways. And that's online dating. But not just about the online dating, it's about description of yourself. Can you truly describe who you really are on that form that you fill out? And what I mean form, meaning when you get online and you click, 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 and you try to describe yourself in the option blocks and the little bit you can you actually describe who you really are, all your attributes without overwhelming it? And even if you can you really? I'm going to say no. And here's why. So let's go back to 2004 when I was actively looking at that time. And yes, I've just put myself out there. My age is already back in 2004. And so, with that being said, eHarmony at that time was quite popular. Myself and a friend of mine, it was a male friend, he as well was out there trying to scope the online world. And so we both decided, hey, let's just try out the app. Well, the app was probably like 45 minutes to the hour to fill it out. Now there was other dating sites out there, but this one here was supposed to be, it's a guaranteed match. Okay. Well, let's try it out. And we did. Nearly an hour later, now let's start with mine because I filled mine out first, and I did not give the results because I was still waiting for him to fill out his so we can have it was kind of like a fun thing. Hey, let's fill this out, let's see what happens, and jokingly like, hey, let's see if this application or this eHarmony will actually find us to be the equal match, kind of like fun type of stuff. So after I had a chance to review my results, I was quite surprised. In fact, I was very, very surprised. But we'll just keep that surprise till after we fill out his. So after about an hour and 20 minutes, I was thinking, how much longer? He said, I'm just going to go ahead and just wrap up the last few. I may even twitch it and lie or exaggerate to make myself even better. And I said, okay, fine. So he ended his and submitted. So let's just go to his first. I don't think I've laughed so hard after the response he got. After spending nearly an hour and 20 minutes of probably 90% truth, which still, I saw the men that were on there on the profile. So I can honestly say I seriously doubt that 80% of the men were even 40% truthful. But again, that's just my personal opinion. So after he submitted it, he got a nice little response back. Thank you for submitting your questionnaire on eHarmony. Unfortunately, there is no results that we have in the system that would match you at this time. I was like, really? They literally guarantee their entire motto was we guarantee eHarmony. If you go back to the original, how they really puffed up about how they just, an hour and 20 minutes worth of your time, will guarantee you. I'm thinking, what did he put in that to make it reject it? And it was really surprising. He was honest on pretty much everything. That's what took him so long. He was actually being honest. So the last few minutes is when he said, gee, it's taken me forever. I'm just going to roll through the last few questions. So there you go. An hour and 20 minutes later, and being honest doesn't give you anything. So let's see what happened with mine. I was very honest. In fact, I wish there was more information for me to actually put down the things that I wanted to put down. There was things about me I would love to tell somebody, but unfortunately they just didn't have the areas or the options or the blanks for me to put that down. Yeah, again, let's describe what I'm looking for. Of course, a man, a nice man, a nice average man. I'm not looking for a massive beefcake here. I'm looking for the sensible, strong, protective man. Not overbearing, just a nice man. Okay, let's just see. Let's see. Scroll through. Let's see what I got. Woman, 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 woman. I'm sorry. 2 pages later. Woman, 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 woman. 2 pages later. Woman, woman, woman. I'm sorry, what? They selected, and in fact, what I received was based on your profile that you filled out. We feel this is your best match. Hello. I'm not gay. It's not, again, I'm not against whoever it is or whatever. This isn't about that. I don't, that's your prerogative. It doesn't matter what team you play on. I don't play on that side of the team, if you know what I mean. I was surprised. I'm not gay. And yet it was like 24 pages of women that fit my profile. Where in my profile did I mention? In fact, at the beginning, I believe the very first question is, what are you interested in? Male, female, other. I'm not sure where that goes, but of course, I selected male. Not the kind you get from the United States Post Office. I'm talking a real male, MALE. And yet, somehow, they find nearly 24 pages of women. And another thing, too, is interesting is I had a radius, within a 50-mile radius, and they had it like a 200-mile radius. So I'm going to just throw this out on a whim here. I don't think you're able to tell everything that you want to tell, or at least if you do they actually pay attention? I'm not sure. So let's talk about you just being you and how that fits into the category. So that is the one thing why it makes it so easy to just hop online and go tick, 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 because yeah, you could just go on there and fill out. And I did Match.com, and that's actually where I met my husband, who's now my ex-husband. And let's go past that. Let's just build a bridge and move on. So again, online dating, I would have to say probably, and I can guarantee it's not going to happen. In fact, let's just give, probably the top 3 winners of the last online dating before, before I did finally get married, only to get divorced, which was all off of Match.com. So we'll just squeeze, I would say, the top 5 players, and I mean players. In this case, it would be the top 3. So let's start with number 3. I do not remember his name. In fact, I don't think I remember the last 2 names, but I definitely can say I don't remember his name because the moment I saw him, I met him at an Italian restaurant, Carrabba's. It's funny how the memory starts clicking in, right? And the moment I saw him, I realized I wanted to leave. I am not a shallow person. In fact, I'm the opposite of shallow. I believe in giving everybody opportunity, whether, they have a quality that I was looking for or not. But in this particular case, I never wanted to get to a car fast enough. The moment I saw him, I realized he immediately lied about his height. I'd like to have somebody at least my height. I'm 5'9". So to have somebody who's, you know, at least my height would be nice. And he had said he was nearly 6 foot. He was shorter than me. So that was kind of a mark against him. The second one was, I don't know who took his picture, but I had a hard time thinking that was even the guy that I was supposed to meet. With being too short and not looking like the guy in the picture, I started thinking maybe this isn't him. And I was hopeful thinking that wasn't him. But he knew my name, and that kind of killed the deal. So, yeah, I don't know, again, how he was able to take the pictures, but that's not what I remember seeing in the 5 photos that he sent. But I have to say, kudos to him because that was great photography because pictures did do him justice. And then things that, the way he was, the vibration I got off of him was making me very nervous, and I do mean vibration. It hasn't been until recently in my life I started understanding the frequency and vibration of people. And like I said, this is back a long time ago. If I had understood more about frequencies, I definitely would not have had dinner. He was giving off a really odd vibe. Moving on, when he asked, we sat down and he started asking about what I was doing for a living. And at that time, of course, I had a business. He he told me originally in his profile that he was a GM over a large company. What I found out later was he was a shift manager at a Walmart food center. So that's a little off. That wasn't quite honest. But the part that put me over the edge was during the meal, he was really strong, I mean adamant about telling me his brother was patenting a bunch of items. And I was like, really? Patenting a bunch of items? And he's like, yes. And I said, what is it? Pine needles. Oh, okay. You're patenting pine needles. Well, that's interesting. I thought they were already spoken for, coming from the pine tree. He says, oh, no, no, no. No, he's coloring them for landscapers. And he was having some of the primary colors, I guess, would be like green, blue, white, black. He was paying to have each one patent. Now, listen, we all know, if you know anything about patent attorneys and how that really works, yeah, that's not going to happen. So it was exit stage right time, and it couldn't come any faster. And again, I try to give everybody the benefit of doubt. I look at things where, even though that's not, something I ever thought I'd be interested in, I'm very open minded, because you just never know. Sometimes you just don't know what you really want in life until you're around it. That's like you can't experience bad unless you have good, and you can't experience good unless you have bad in life. It's just, again, yin and yang. So let's yin and yang our way over to number two. Number two actually surprised me. Again, the profile, we had a lot of conversations. We talked back and forth. I mean, great personality. Love the personality. Very upbeat, very energetic. It didn't really come out about the part two to him until after we kind of spent more time getting to know each other. And when I mean more time, I'm talking about the conversations. Again, I wasn't looking for looks as much as the person itself. I've always been good about, and I have to say, I actually want to know the person on the inside. Of course, I want somebody who's decent to look at. When I mean decent, they don't have to be like, oh my gosh, he's like, oh, the most beautiful person in the world. No, I'm talking about just beautiful person where his inside reflects to the outside. So again, he was not a bad looking man. He definitely was physically fit, because he was a physical fitness trainer. That I actually found out later, because really the pictures he had didn't show. It's not like he was muscling up, and he always wore, nice clothes, stuff like that. So it wasn't something you could physically see. So that actually came out later when we met. It's funny because I really try not to ask too much about what they do for a living, because I don't want anybody to think that that is important to me. I mean, as long as you have a job, that's great. I don't want to get involved in somebody who, stays in their parents' basement and, stays home and plays games all day and doesn't know what a job is, and thinks that you are their paycheck. So that is important. A job is important. But if you lie about your job, well, that's a different story. I'd rather just tell me the truth. I mean, if you're a toilet cleaner, you're a toilet cleaner. Be good about it and be good at it. So, but I did not know about the muscle side of it until later. So we meet up, which was great. You finally put an actual face with a name, and which is always nice to do. And everything was great until we started to eat. I'm sorry, until we started ordering. That's when I started seeing all the red flags coming out all over the place. That's actually the first time I used the phone call method, because that's the one where you pretend to make a phone call for you to be on the phone to find a way out. Though I have to say, I have used the bathroom one, where it's like, I'll be right back, I have to go to the restroom, and then you just don't come back. But I will say, for those that want to do that, don't eat the meal first. That's inappropriate. Do the man a favor. Do it before you order. That way he's not sticking him with the bill. At least do that. So as I presume the order, I always try to order light anyways, because, well, I just like to order light. And it was, are you going to eat that? Is that something you think you should eat? I mean, what is your BMI? When's the last time you checked your BMI? He starts calculating what he thinks my BMI is, starts telling me what I should and shouldn't eat based on what, the time of the day, what's best for the body. Oh my gosh, I wanted to leave, because what was going to be so good just went right upside down. And I'm thinking, how did I miss this? So I realized the next time I decide about maybe meeting somebody, I better ask about the food, because apparently that's a big deal. So there was a lot more to this one. It's just like eating a sour ball. If you saw the look on my face, you'd understand what I mean. So let's go to the top number one, the all, the big tamale that made me stop dating for 6 years. Now, with the priors, I have learned to ask lots of questions and covered all the topics that made me not want to stay for dinner on the other ones. And like I said, there was some between that probably could have turned out, but sometimes you just don't click, right? Well, this particular one hits the top of all on the list. Oh, yes. Now, listen, I think police officers, they're, yeah, there's something about a police officer, either a detective, police officer, along that lines, highly attractive too. Maybe it's the gun. I don't know. I love guns. I'm a gun person. It's not that. It's that protect and serve. Yep. Always been a big fan favorite of the police officers. So this one here, I'm not going to reveal the last name, but I definitely remember the first name. So we'll call him Officer Brad. Oh, yes, Officer Brad. Where can everything go wrong in one man? It's this one. Okay, so obviously right off the bat, we hit it off. It was great. This guy was, I'm like, it's too good to be true. And let me tell you something right now. If you say that word, it's probably true. It is too good to be true. So right out of the gate, he must have put his best foot forward because he fooled me. All the questions I said, I was worried about the food. Oh, he didn't care. You know, everything that I was concerned about when it comes to questions, he answered. Flying colors, no problem. It wasn't until about 3 months into this relationship is when the true Officer Brad came out. Now, I remind you, I have animals. I love animals. I believe at that time I had 2 dogs and a cat. I always have 2 or 3 or whatever, it doesn't matter. And stipulation is my profile always said, my animals come with me, they stay with me, they're not, they're part of the package. They always have and they always will be. If you ask me to choose one or the other, you will see the door faster than you came in. So that's how I feel about that subject. My doggies and my kitties, they're my kids. And that's how I feel about it. Okay, moving on. So Officer Brad. Now this man, he was good to look at. That was a good bonus in this package. However, um, that's where you say sometimes looks don't pay off. So let's just start with let's go down three months down the road when things started getting out of hand. So let's start with things I didn't know about Officer Brad. I definitely knew all the things that I thought I knew about Officer Brad, all the good Officer Brad. So let's just peel the veil back and expose the bad Officer Brad. Because we did live about 30, 40 miles apart, we didn't see each other a lot. So there was a lot of space gap between us. Sometimes we'd catch up maybe once a week, we'd talk, or maybe, every other weekend or something like that. So it was wasn't a continuous seeing each other every day. So there was some time spurts between that. The last few times I caught up with him, he just wasn't acting himself. He seemed very agitated, very short, and I asked him if everything's okay. And of course, he says, "Oh yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's fine." He did start questioning my vehicle, which he never did before. Why are you driving that vehicle? I'm not sure. I really like to see you in a vehicle like that. It seems too noticeable, too flashy, makes people want to stare at you. It was a Z3 convertible. I mean, a BMW. It wasn't flashy. It was just fun. And I didn't have the car for being flashy. It was just a fun car to have. And so it was really bothering him, and he was asking me to consider trading it or getting rid of it if we were to have a future. And I'm thinking, well, no, and that's really odd. But then it got a little bit more odder than that. There was a deputy that saw us and came up and said, "How's your time off?" And I'm like, "Oh, you got time off? I didn't know that because you didn't ask me to catch up with you." And he goes, "Well, it's not what you think." And I was like, "Okay, well, what is it?" Nothing. It's no big deal. I was like, "Okay, well, I'm on suspension." I'm like, "Oh, I didn't, for what?" And he goes, "It's just an investigation. It's just, there was a traffic stop that he had that didn't go correctly." And he said that they're just going to investigate it to until he gets cleared, then he'll be back on the streets. And I was like, okay, all right, well, everything okay? And he's like, oh yeah, yeah, it's typical, it happens, it's no big deal. And it wasn't until the police officer that was with him came up to me and asked me to just watch him. And I was like, what am I watching? And he says, well, with his condition. I was like, he has a condition? He's like, yes. He didn't tell you? And I'm like, no. Um, Please feel free to tell me, though. I would be highly interested. And he said, oh, then it's not no, I'm sorry. He needs to tell you. And I'm like, well, you open the can of worms here. You have to let him out. And he's like, I'm sorry. Nope, none of my business. If he wants to tell you, he can. So obviously, within a few seconds, I'm sitting down saying, is there something you need to tell me? And he's like, no. And I said, well, I think you need to. And so finally, after a few minutes, it worked out. He goes, I have a slight, they call it condition. It's no big deal. It doesn't affect my job. I take medication for it. Oh, what do you have? I'm bipolar. I'm sorry, what? I'm bipolar. How does that work? I mean, and so then eventually I started asking more questions, and he was actually okay about it. I think he was on the medication, he was kind of chilled out. But as he described, apparently a traffic stop, he said he wasn't taking his medication that night, and he got a little over aggressive. So let me figure this out. If you're bipolar, that usually means you could be two different people at once. You could just flip a switch and you could be one way or the other. So does that make it easier to play good cop, bad cop? I mean, I'm curious about that. I mean, do you say, shoot him, don't shoot him, shoot him, don't shoot him? I would love to have been a fly on the wall on that one. But apparently, he did a pretty good number to this person over a traffic stop. I wasn't given the details, but let's just say, let's move on. So it actually started building up a little bit more. But then the real Brad started coming out. A slight little detail. Now let's just go back after he's already said, get rid of your car. And he also said, get rid of your animals because he's allergic to the animals and I can't have animals around me or in the house. So I guess the stipulation for me to have a relationship with him would be to get rid of everything that would be mine. So far, it doesn't sound very fair, does it? Well, now let's find out who Brad really is. So down the road, apparently it took a little bit more than a few weeks because there was something else that resurfaced that forced him to go into a further investigation. What could that be? Oh, a stalking incident. Yeah, a stalking incident, which apparently he has a child. He has a child. He failed to mention he had a 4-year-old girl. Never mentioned he had a daughter and a wife. Hence the stalking. Apparently, he became very abusive, very aggressive, apparently when he was during his bipolar incidents when they were married, and she put a restraining order on him where he could not see the child or her to the point where she physically moved to another department. Now, the piece of the resistance is the one thing that I had in the back of my mind about something I kept seeing a lot of, and that was before the wife and the child incident came out, when I would hang out over at his place, there was a man that used to come over almost every time I was there too. And sometimes he would wear cologne. And I noticed a pattern where Officer Brad would go brush his teeth and put cologne on, and then his friend would show up. Yeah, this starts making you think, doesn't it? Because he didn't wear cologne when I was around. Well, when he did, it was probably left over from the day. But I started seeing a pattern. Why is this guy showing up every time I'm here? It's almost like, would you be jealous? Yeah, well, let's just fast forward that one. After everything was revealed and he realized other things, I think I caught him on one of his extra pill days because when I finally confronted him and I told him I already knew who he was, I already knew he was his boyfriend. I played that psychological thing, whereas if I already knew, he was just now having to back himself out of the situation, which he actually just put himself in the situation. He confessed. He literally confessed. That's what the whole fight was about. When his wife apparently found out about his other life. And at that point, I was like, I'm done. No more. I'm out of this nut game called dating. So I took about a 6-year break. Yeah, I think now I probably should have took more than 6 years. But you know, here's the thing: in all my dating world life and marriage and whatever, I can honestly say it's not going to change who I am. It's not going to stop me from still searching the one special one that I know that I would like to spend good quality time with. I'm not going to let some few bumps in the road cause me to derail my future because of what somebody else may have done or didn't do. That's life. That's what life's all about. It's an experience. You don't not do something because you're afraid of it happening again. You just do it. And if it happens, say, well, I allowed it to happen because you shouldn't. I've had enough warning signs. And number one thing I've learned in all of this, and that's the most important thing. If you learn something from it, learn this. Listen to your heart because your heart will not betray you. Your mind will, but your gut and your heart, especially your heart, if it says run, run. If it says love, you love. That's my thought for the day. Okay, so that's all I have to say. And again, wherever you are in this world, if you're listening in, whether it's breakfast or dinner or in the afternoon, it doesn't matter. Have a wonderful day. Take care.